it's kind of like watching Babe Ruth in his final years, you know? I mean, the legend, and didn't know how long he was going to be there, so I didn't want to let him down. I wanted to attempt to get put the best team around him as possible. And then, I mean, he elevated the social media game. He elevated, the business side, sports science, ticketing. I mean, he elevated everybody. So, and we're still feeling the ripple effects. We still talk about, it hasn't been that long. We tell the rookies that they always ask, a lot of them, most of them ask, what was Tom like? And then we kind of go into stories out of that you wouldn't believe how hard he worked. This didn't just happen by accident.
Welcome to the Greenlight Podcast presented by BetMGM. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code Greenlight and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code Greenlight. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. If that bet loses, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just make sure you use bonus code Greenlight when you sign up. In what universe does a guy have 17 and a half sacks in the year of our Lord 2024, and then in 2025 he can't get a deal? The general Trey Hendrickson disrespect is rooted in a couple things. I think part of it is for him, when he started out in New Orleans, he was kind of a reserve guy. He was a rotational guy. He wasn't a high pick out of Florida Atlantic. And he runs like some of y'all would run if you were out there playing pro football. And he looks in his uniform like some of y'all would look.
Yep.
If you were out there playing pro football and you had like elite handwork and a great get off and like just a murderous chop and, like a real feel for pass rushing. Everything else about him screams regular guy.
My thing is, why are we surprised by this? Why are we surprised by this? This organization last year was the running joke that they're cooked because they did this shit last year with Jamar Chase, who's arguably a way better player.
Look what you're doing already.
Arguably,
you're right.
He's a way better player than Trey Hendrickson.
I don't like doing that comparative.
Well, I'm just saying for points and for winning.
Your point stands.
For winning wise, it's just that if they did that to him, what makes you think they're not going to do that to anybody?
Nobody's shocked. Nobody's shocked. I, for one, am not shocked. Especially now with their first round pick defensive end. They're like, hey, we just got to draft defense. We got to go get some pass rush in the draft, and they signed the guy, and then he's holding out.
I love it.
In the first week.
I love it.
And you know what's funny? Usually, if I saw that from a rookie, I'd be like, what the fuck? All the contracts are slotted. What's to argue over? But it's the Bengals. And then on top of it, now you're like, okay, well, your shiny rookie won't sign his contract. Why should I sign my contract? The leverage just keeps mounting for a guy like Trey Hendrickson.
Do you think it has anything to do? Obviously, they've got a lot of money tied up on the offensive side of the ball. Do you think they spent too much on that side?
I'm not a cap expert. Yeah. Some people will tell you the cap's not real.
Right.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I do believe they could get something done with Trey. I'm not sure what it would look like, but it seems like the two sides are so far apart. And if I had to guess, last year they said, hey, well, we don't want to do it right now. We'll come back to the table. And when they came back to the table, it was bullshit.
Right. Is his deal done, or he has like one more year?
He's got one more year.
He has one more year.
Yeah.
So like right now, like a team can try to like trade for him.
Oh, I think that might be that might end up being what happened.
Yeah.
But you don't even have a good look at your Shamar Stewart is the kid's name from South Carolina. Is it South Carolina?
A&M.
A&M. Sorry, got my
Where's
off
Clowney?
reds mixed up.
Did Clowney get picked up yet?
Clowney did not. I don't believe get picked up yet. But the point is this: you're in between a rock and a hard place because you don't have any pass rush, and this young guy now is sitting in a standoff with your ownership.
We're gonna talk about it later, but your boy Graham not doing you guys any favors right now.
The white D tackle. See, are you falling into the Dov Kleiman report stuff? I'm not saying the guy's going to be good. I haven't watched an iota of tape on the guy.
All I'm gonna say is throwing up at rookie minicamp in front of fans.
He could have had food poisoning.
That's very true. That's very true. And I mean,
How many?
hey, if you want to throw the life jacket out there, I accept it.
But you're acting like it's some heroic toss of the life. It would be the lifesaver, not the life jacket. You don't throw a life jacket to somebody who's overboard. You throw
I'm teasing a little bit, but at the same token, if he wasn't sick, I don't think that's a good look for a top 10 pick.
Well, if he's not good,
if he was throwing up because he's not in shape or he wasn't training hard enough or whatever it is, because we all know how it is, bro. Like, you have to either be like hungover or like really out of shape to throw up during a practice.
Or the third thing.
What's that?
Food poisoning.
No, absolutely.
Which I puked in 06. I remember 06 I had food poisoning. I ate at the...
Look, were you the only one who got it?
Yes, because I was out eating at the Taiwan Garden or whatever it was, not the docks.
Okay.
And then I was the sickest I've ever been. I remember you were there, dude. I like projectile vomited on the field. All I'm saying is, like, listen, if he looks like shit in the drills, that's one thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, somebody under one of Dov's, it's not even Dov anymore. It's like a different guy. So I demand that the replacement for Dov Kleiman puts his real name and picture up next to this trash. Listen, there's no pads. It's OTAs. These are just drills. I want to see him get out there on the field with 10 other guys on defense and 11 guys on offense. The point I guess I want to make is it's just under that video that people are ripping, and they don't even know what they're looking at yet. Somebody said he has the aura of a rock, and that is absolutely true. Like, this guy has no aura. He has no swag. There's a video of him walking into the facility, and you're like, this guy's undrafted.
You know what makes me excited about that?
What?
Look
at this: black sneakers, white socks. What's up with this sock? Like,
how much do you want to bet he's either gonna do an Eminem song, a Shabuzi song, or what song? What song do you think?
Are you saying
for the rookie? Just looking at
him.
Black? No, those are not black Air Forces, but
I wouldn't even know. I'm old, according to Jackson Dart. We'll get to that in a little bit. So I wouldn't even know what kids are singing at this point. But, like, he looks like his whole outfit came from Foot Locker, and he shopped on a budget.
There was, to his credit, he was being asked by the equipment manager, what cleats do you want?
Yeah.
He did say he wanted, like, thicker tight end cleats. Like, he didn't want the D lineman.
The fast D lineman. Well, he's an interior player.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll just say this. We're so caught up in it this time of year where the only window into these facilities is like videos from, your local reporters who are at the facility, or some type of team social BS where it's just the guy hitting a bag. I've seen guys in OTAs that look like they were going to be Von Miller. And they scared the shit out of me. Like, it'd be a guy that, like, we drafted or some undrafted guy, and I'd be like, this is embarrassing. This guy looks way better than me. I can't think of their names. I play with so many of them. And I'd look back, and I was terrified of these guys because they looked really good doing the drills. And the ball snapped when you get into phase 2 or phase 3 or training camp, and these guys are like mad dogs in meat houses. They're drill guys. So I'm just saying, we got to give players, Shedeur Sanders included, Dylan Gabriel included. We got to give these guys time. Although I did think it was funny.
Can I play devil's advocate a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Me as an undrafted guy, and as a guy who, like, was that guy who did really well in drills.
Are you sure you did well in drills?
Shorts and T-shirts. I feel like I did. I feel like I did, and I just feel like this is your first impression to, like, everyone, like, in the organization, whatever it is.
Did what he just showed look that bad?
No.
You're stuck on the puke thing.
Maybe.
Probably.
A little bit.
What don't you like about his body mechanics here?
Melanin.
It's melanin, dude.
No.
It's definitely melanin.
Hell no.
It's a lack of melanin.
No. I like white D tackles.
I mean, I'd like to see him gain more ground with that step if that's a drill where we're slanting and taking a gap.
94 looks good on him.
94 looks okay. Could be
Yeah,
worse.
you know who looks better? 98 next to him.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing: they're in underwear. That's all I'm saying. And people are going to spin this. With the minute this guy can't play, everybody's going to be like, "Oh, you said he could play." No, I just said that him puking on a practice field in May means nothing. It really means nothing. And these Dov Klymans of the world, these ML football accounts of the world, they are doing football fans a disservice because their entire existence is predicated on, and I know they're not going to share my podcast quotes anymore eventually when they hear me shitting on them, but like they are grifting. They're legitimately grifting. These guys running these accounts are grifters.
Wait.
They take footage
trolling?
of people in underwear. No, this isn't trolling. They are grifting.
What's grifting?
No, grifting is not trolling. Grifting is like profiting off of something serious when you're being unserious.
Okay.
Or profiting off a wave. They're profiting off a wave of misinformation and disinformation.
Can I say the best one I seen?
What is it?
This dude was like Shador Sanders with an 85-yard pass
that was funny.
touchdown
Air
in
yard.
practice. And if this was a real game, he would currently have the longest in-air pass. And it's clearly
It was a little underthrown.
No, it was a throw from like the 50-yard line.
Yes.
40-yard line. So
a lot of this started with Tua. When people were talking about his deep ball, myself included, Miami started doing these tight shots of the football in like OTAs where you couldn't orient yourself with the yard marker to see how far the throw was. And then the last second, the wide receiver would come into frame catching the ball, usually like behind him. And now it's graduated into this thing where like it's become rage bait. Like these people are just rage baiting us. I'm just telling you what's happening. These guys are rage baiting us. They'll show a 5-yard in cut, like just like a slant or something, and the ball's kind of on target, and they'll be like, "Yeah, this guy's got skills." And they know that the mentions are.
But why is it rage? Because like
I'm gonna tell you.
Because you know that like the people who maybe like really don't know football.
I'm gonna explain.
Okay.
It's rage bait because look at the comments. A lot of the population is onto it. They're like, dude.
I think the comments is the best part.
I know, but that's what they're doing. They're farming engagement. It's just engagement farming. You know, like, and I'm not saying any of these quarterbacks and this is the problem today is like if I go on a rant about how bullshit this tactic is, they're going to say, hey, quarterback X, you know, he's going to end up being a good player. You said he wasn't. No, what I'm saying is an in cut in underwear in slow motion is not proof of anything. Mm-hmm. And they know that when they post that. And it's the same thing when they post a guy doing bag work. How many fucking guys look great in underwear at the combine doing bag work that we never heard from again? I just want to see them play football in due time. Now, I agree with the people on the internet that this Browns rookie has the aura of a rock.
But is there anyone memorable that does terrible like in the bag work and stuff like at the combine and in this?
I got one for you.
Who?
That big guy with alopecia that 4 years ago was tripping all over himself and couldn't club rip a bag. He looked really awkward doing it. Everybody know. We'll put this in the YouTube or whatever. I can't remember the guy, but he just got drafted. He was he was at some like high school camp. He's this big, tall guy with alopecia. And people made fun of him. He was a meme for 3-4 years. All these normies making fun of this guy because he looked awkward hitting a bag, which does not feel like football, by the way. And he became this internet sensation in a bad way. And I looked up on draft night. It's this guy.
Landon Jackson.
I haven't been this happy for a guy that I didn't know much about in a while. If you've seen this video, he looks like he doesn't know what he's doing. He looks awkward. I've looked awkward hitting bags, dude. Like, bag work is awkward. The way the bag work is coached can be awkward. It doesn't necessarily translate. Like, this drill sucks. The running up and down the field, slapping the bag. Like, when in football, as an edge player, are you just slapping somebody in the shoulder and running straight up the field? You know, there's a bend and a turn in there too with pass rushing.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's making fun of this guy as, you know, like this guy's the worst football player ever. They forget about him. They never knew who he was, really. 4 years later, he gets drafted by the Bills. It's a great success story, and it's an example of the internet not knowing what the fuck they're talking about. It just doesn't matter that much. It's bag work. Now look at John Randall hitting the bag. Look at John Randall hitting the bag.
Violent club. Ha.
Look at that jab. Unknown practice squad player.
That's crazy.
No violence. That's what they're saying. No movement. But again, with the bags, not to go into this coaching session here, but run that. The problem with that guy is the one good thing about the bags is you tie your feet and your hands in. Like, it doesn't directly correlate with football necessarily, but what it does is it helps you coordinate your moves with your feet. And that can be a struggle for guys. I'm just on a tangent about bag work. We're supposed to talk about Derek Carr retiring. Hey, and before we get Derek Carr, Cowboy, you have a poll for the people at home.
We want to ask the people and leave your answer in the comments at the show. But the NCAA, they could allow their athletes to bet on pro sports.
That's right.
The thing that they're voting on right now to go, if they approve it, it'll go in front of the council. If the council approves, it will be instituted as soon as June. That'll allow college athletes to bet on pro sports. So we want to know, should college athletes be able to bet on pro sports? Is this good or bad for college athletics?
Nate, don't lead the witness yet. Give them a second to think about it. Comment in the comments whether or not you think it's a good idea. Nate, I see you shaking your head no.
What can possibly go wrong with this, guys?
All right. Let me play devil's advocate here. This is according to Pat 40. I mean, it's Pat 40?
Mm-hmm.
Why would he spell it like 40, like 40-yard dash, right?
That's his column, 40-yard dash.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so Pat 40, who's very good at his job.
Whoa.
You don't think so?
I hate Pat 40.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Wow.
Why?
He's got an axe to grind against UVA. Because
Okay.
He does.
UVA swimming
Yeah.
dominated his daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What did we have
Stanford swimming.
Oh, nice. I like that. I like that.
He called Virginia basketball a towering fraud right before they won the national championship.
Massive idiot Pat 40 says momentum's building towards the NCAA lifting the ban on gambling on pro sports. So, Nate, your point is well taken. What could go wrong? Let me tell you what could go right. What could go right is you give these guys and girls, because girls like to gamble too, I'm sure. I don't want to leave them out. An opportunity to waste their money on something else, right? Like, and to not feel like, hey, if I have an itch to scratch, I got to scratch it at the collegiate level. And more specifically, like, you know, if a guy's thinking about making 10 grand, maybe he'll consider making it the right way and picking winners. Listen to Greenlight, right? College athletes, you could listen to Greenlight right now, and we'll give you winners. One of the only shows that I know of that was everybody was over 500. I forget what my fucking. Can we go back there for a second? What was my?
You were like 700.
700. So if you're a college athlete and this comes down, you need to listen to Greenlight. But the point is, like, look at all the scandals that have happened the past 10 years, and gambling, make no ifs, ands, or buts about it, is like the future of revenue for pro sports, for college sports, the whole thing. The only way to fuck that money up is to foster distrust in the product, right? And the way you do that is you get caught in a bunch of scandals. A bunch of young guys and maybe women throwing games, being in gambling rings. You talk about the Iowa State scandal. You have the Bama baseball thing where the Bama coach gets fired, the whole thing. Keyshawn Butte, he's gambling, but not on his team. So the point I want to make is, like, they can't afford to have any more of this happen. And I do believe as a gambler, it is about an itch. Now, there will always be those people that want to make a quick buck, and they'll do whatever it takes to do it. And they might say, hey, I got a better chance of point shaving and collecting than, you know, making money on a big Sunday parlay. And those people you'll always have to contend with. But I do think this is a way to, what would the word be, mitigate the risk of having a massive gambling problem in college sports. Because you think about a population We know college sports has gone the way of these guys are like professionals. Shedeur Sanders is an outlier. Guys like that are outliers. Yes, dudes are making a lot of money at big schools, and the stars are making a ton of money, but there's still a ton of NCAA athletes who are not making a ton of money. And when you talk about like who are the most vulnerable populations when it comes to like, taking a bite out of the apple, so to speak, it's the guys who aren't making any money. And like, so you have a vulnerable population. You also have something that you want to kind of keep the coffers full for the foreseeable future. If you're an NCAA president or something like that, who, by the way, last year, it's such a problem that they were like, let's get rid of prop bets at the NCAA level. In March of last year, Charlie Baker was like, let's ban prop bets. And I get that. What might be smarter would be like, hey guys, if you want to gamble away, the Mystics tip at 720. Like, you can do, there's tennis, there's international tennis, there's pro football, there's the whole thing. So what they're not thinking about probably is debt. That's my biggest concern about it. I think this is a good idea because they're adults, they're making a lot of money. Why wouldn't they be able to bet on something else? It deters you possibly from betting on your own sport. Now, the problem is you're going to have a bunch of guys who are going to lose their ass, right? And when they lose their ass, what are they going to do then? So I almost think it's a thing where, like, if you are an NCAA athlete and you bet, you need to notify your athletic department of what app you are using, and they need to take a look at that balance. Because if I got a guy who's down $50,000 in a given week, he might not take the field. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot I threw at you there, pros and cons, but I think the pros outweigh the cons. You're going to have a problem no matter what. You can mitigate the risk if you give them something to do.
No, but that's my thing. That's another thing too. Is just that this stuff is like somewhat public knowledge. So like, we're going to be finding out that, hey, guys are betting this much, that much, because we find out now, like, these apps, like, they track everything. They track everything. But my issue is what happens when, like, negligence. These are young kids. What happens when you look at the app and you're like, oh, this app is giving us better odds on this 5-game parlay, and you don't realize one of those games is a college game. Now your season's over.
Well, you have to be an adult. That's part of being an adult. When you make a lot of money, you're an adult. You have to be an adult.
I hear you, bro, but like we know how some of our teammates are in college. They're not adults yet. And there's a lot of guys right now who are making a lot of money that are not adults yet. So it's like, when you think about
bet the board, don't bet the promo.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
But also, when it opens up, you got to think about all the people who've never bet before, that now that it's legal, that you're going to get on that app.
Oh, so you're a big roundabouts fan? You could just spring fucking roundabouts, like Department of Transportation could just put a bunch of circles with a million lines in them in the middle of the road, like all of a sudden, and people are supposed to like
way better than the traffic.
So you're pro roundabout, but anti like sudden implementation of gambling privileges.
I just think that I hear what you're saying, but I think that we're trying to give a lot of credit that these kids are mature enough for this. And I don't think the age gap of when you get to college and kids are getting to it's 18 to gamble some places, or 21
18.
or 8,
I'm 40.
18 now.
18.
Doesn't concern me.
In the States it's 18, like these apps.
18.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so 18, like I just feel like everyone's not ready
If
for
you're
that.
eligible for the World War III draft, you should be able to fucking trick off some money on
You're
BetMGM.
saying you didn't know the difference between the Boston Celtics and the Boston University Terriers at age 18.
And then and when we hear those stories, it's gonna be.
I haven't heard.
Like, no, I'm saying, if this does get implemented, like, you guys honestly don't think we're gonna hear those type of stories?
We probably will hear one or two, but you know what stories we're going to hear a lot more over the next 10, 15 years, and eventually it could cripple college sports, is players being involved in massive scandals, betting against their own team or for their own team, insider info. You talk about like college. You talk about, okay, in pro football right now, when it's game week, there are 53 guys with intimate knowledge who play on the game, play in the field, who, and that's
all I'm thinking
at
about.
most.
That's
No,
all I'm
so
thinking
what I'm
about.
saying is this: it is hard to get information, okay, in the NFL. Players protect information in the NFL. I don't go looking for it because I don't put people in bad situations, and I wouldn't want to put them in peril. But I know this, like when I've had people ask me about injuries and they could be close friends, I'm always thinking about, like, who are they going to tell?
Yeah.
And where's this information going? Professionals understand that, okay? There's less guys and the staff, like, same thing. There's less people.
Well,
on
they
the
just
staff.
need
hold on.
education classes.
But hold on.
They need someone to sit down, like what you're saying right now. They need that. I think they're gonna need that, and to have that awareness to think
agree.
about, hey, if you hear someone maybe poking at, asking you questions, you should be aware of this.
Yeah, they have symposiums for everything now. But the point I'm making is, in college sports, there's a lot of players with a lot less to lose.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this might not be your vocation if you're a walk-on. Getting rid of some of the walk-ons and everything, but, like, this might not be your future if you're the second tight end in the SEC. Like, so you're going to be a lot more, if you want to make some money on the side, or if you want to place a bet, like, you're a lot more liable to do that when the repercussions are not as professional and they're not as permanent. And quite frankly, it's easier to find information around a college game, in my opinion. So, like, you have to protect that process if you want to make as much money in the gambling sphere. I mean, you talk about March Madness. If you couldn't gamble on March Madness, like, what kind of chunk does that take out of the revenue around college sports, period? And I'm not just talking about, like, basketball. I'm talking about, it's a sizable little chunk just in those couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to protect that golden goose. The way you got to do that is to let these people be adults and get their fix somewhere else. You'll always have to worry about the people who are in debt or just bad guys, for sure. But what it does is takes away the temptation to place a bet on college football or college basketball, or what have you. I think I'm not 100% sold on it, but I am much more in the corner of, like, hey, let's move some of the risks somewhere else and deal with the consequences of, hey, maybe these guys are going to lose their asses. We'll figure that part out.
You know what I'm thinking about? All right, me and you, we're college roommates, right? You're a senior.
Yeah.
We're best friends. We've been betting. We've been illegally betting. Have a bookie on an app. We've been winning money throughout college. No one knows, whatever like that. You go to the league, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a year left in college. Now I can bet. Now I'm asking you, hey, who's not playing this week?
Who you asking, me in the league?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to tell you that.
But, like, if we're friends, how do you know? Like, what
You're
what
asking
if
me to incriminate myself? Like,
But
I would tell you.
I'm saying, like, think about guys that maybe not thinking about that or whatever. And now this college kid, he's placing $5,000 bet.
Can I tell you something?
Yep.
That's a lot harder to trace. What we're talking about is, like, public perception, the perception that the institution is intact and that when you bet on a pro football game, there isn't some fuckery, a foul or however you would put it. And right now, like, you have a population in the NFL that thinks it's rigged.
Yeah.
They think it's rigged. I know after the AFC Championship game, I complained about calls and joked about the game. But I do not think the game I'm not a person that thinks it's scripted. I'm not a person that thinks it's played in the hanger. I'm not a person that thinks that the referees decide going into the game, like, who they want to win the game. Sure, are there teams that get calls, like Jordan used to get fucking calls? Sure. That's like confirmation bias or star treatment or whatever it is. But I just don't believe that the NFL is rigged, and there's a population that believes that. So that's how susceptible the population that is throwing money at this thing is to believing that I should no longer throw money at this thing because it's fixed. And so you got to protect that by minimizing the scandals. Like, that to me is number one. Another thing is, take all of college football. How much new money is there in a given year now? Like, hey, the NCAA, they don't care. If they cared about these kids getting paid, they would have been getting paid a lot longer time ago, and we'd have done something about it. They don't mind if these kids are parting way with their money because they're bad gamblers. And I'll tell you who else doesn't mind. Fucking casinos and sports books.
And I was just about
apps.
to say,
So
you think in college, so now, like, that they did that, are the casinos and these apps allowed to give out NIL deals? If they're going to allow them, if they're not going to care about them betting.
I think that might be a bridge too far.
Or,
because in the NFL, like, I can bet on college sports.
Yeah, we're not allowed to.
Or I can bet on the NBA. But if you're an active player, you can't have
You can't
a
be on
gambling
any.
deal.
Yeah, you can't be on any like casino like event promotion, anything like that.
And for a
So-
long time, you couldn't have an alcohol deal. I don't know if that's still the case.
Oh, word. But Peyton Manning, didn't he have a beer one? That was after.
Maybe after. It was like my dad.
My daddy.
He when he retired, he had a Coors Light deal like off the rip, and he shot a rattlesnake with a can of beer. But he could have never done that when he played.
Nice.
This is an aside, obviously, and I don't think either of y'all are going to disagree, but don't you think, sorry to sound like an old head, but kids these days are on a crash course for mental health crises.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
Being thrown hundreds
That's-
of thousands of
yes.
dollars with all of this pressure, with all of this social media
Yes.
pressure, with not yet developed prefrontal cortexes.
Oh,
where-
for sure.
Where impulse control, is an
Marijuana that's
issue.
more available to people whose brains are still developing. Listen, like I'll smoke a mountain of pot, but I'm 40 years old.
But to your point, it's funny to me that the ones in charge of regulating all these things is the NC2A.
No
Like,
question.
Why are you even involved,
No.
folks? You're they endeavored to integrate athletics with educational component that clearly was never actually at the fore. It was a money-making operation, not unlike this
It's always been.
casino complex.
It's always been. And this is a new freedom. This is hey, here's some independence shrouded in like, let's protect ourselves, in my opinion.
Right.
And for the gambling interest people, like my boss at BetMGM and, any other book or app, like they don't mind that the kid for Iowa that's all of a sudden coming into $3 million is going to be completely irresponsible and bet the Bears every weekend. Like,
It's way better.
no problem.
Can I get you addicted for 20 years or 40? I'll take 40.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So anyways, and also there's the confidence that like, hey, I'm a football player, so I'm going to know how gambling works.
But what happens? How about this? The latter.
What?
What happens when there's a kid up $7 million from betting, and everyone knows, and he's on your team, and you get
Then
the
he'll
extra?
I bet he'll probably give it back at some point, in my experience.
We're going to see ESPN Outside the Lines videos on
Yeah.
Saturday morning before the game talking about how good a bettor he is.
Yes.
So, hey, what's your process? How are
Yeah.
we going through this?
What's my process? Well, I don't really have one because I practice all week and I can't consume any NFL media. And on Saturdays, I'm playing. On Saturday night, I'm drunk. I wake up Sunday morning and fire at the board. That's my process. That's the best possible
And then
process.
that's going to be the next thing. That's going to be the next thing because we're going to have to pay attention to that because you might want to hire some of these kids because some of these kids, what happens? Some of these kids, they might be sharps. They're going to have
We'll see.
They're going to have their Twitch channels.
We'll see. I
Giving
don't
out
think
picks.
Yeah.
Giving
Now there's
out
a
picks
chance. Now, of course, you got to remember this is per Pat 40. When's the last time that came through? I'll make.
That's right. And another complicating part about the gambling addiction, as my friend Dax would tell you, it's the only addiction where you're one more hit away from being back to even.
Yeah.
It's not like one more snort of cocaine
Yep.
will make it all better.
Yep. I'll stop being as high as I am.
Yeah, but if I'm down 25 grand, all in on the
Yeah,
Being
it's
a
the one
pacer.
addiction where you're kind of keeping score.
yeah.
And it's the last addiction that I think people are getting to and calling out is like, listen, you got to be responsible. It's one of those things. I mean, like, you want a couple beers every week? That's great. You want to make a couple plays every week? You make a couple plays. When you start making 30 plays in a day, and I think most books will tell you that. They tell you overtly, like, hey, 1-800-GAMBLERS, we called that line at one point.
Yeah, should have listened to that guy.
So we called
He was ready.
the hotline. He picked up on like the first ring.
Yeah.
Macon was like, hey, I got a real problem. What do you think I should do? And the guy was like, stop right now. Like he was so no nonsense about it. I was like, this probably isn't the helpline.
I seen a viral one. This black dude was going back with the guy, and the guy was like, "Hey, man," he was like, "You know what your problem is? you got to stop with the parlays.
The parlays,
He's like,
bro.
just stop. He's like, if you're going to bet, he was like, just bet straight up. And the guy's like, he's like, I don't know, man. Just those parlays, they be looking good. He goes, that's your problem.
Well, it's funny. My guy was like a cold turkey guy. So, anyways, probably way too long on gambling there, but it is a fun conversation. Like, just, I'm sure it's pretty divided. I've intentionally not looked at the takes surrounding this.
You make good points.
Thank you.
Good points made by you.
Good points made. I mean, hey, listen, like, I am a gambler. I played college football. I played pro football. When I was in pro football, I gambled on college football. You know, we'd walk around every day and I'd be like, hey, $20 on this team, $20 on that team. But things have changed a lot. Like, you know, there's a lot better avenues for you than handshake deals with Brandon Graham. To like, I used to come up to BG and wait until like Michigan was like a big dog because BG only bet money line. Like handshake verbal money line, and I would only bet him the games where they were like dogs because he didn't really understand spreads. So it was kind of predatory on my part. But
they're gonna ask you to hand back that Man of the Year.
We're talking about $100.
Taking advantage of Michigan men.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Mason Graham.
No, I'm pro Mason Graham. I'm the one here defending Mason Graham against the mob.
How many more books open if this gets passed?
I don't think it's going to be that kind of significant. I mean, how many NCAA athletes are there? You know?
Thousands.
You know what the opposite of a check down is?
A deep ball?
A throw up.
Yeah, it's true. Mason Graham.
A throw up.
Isn't that his name?
Yeah, Mason Graham. MG.
Yeah.
MG.
Oh, golly, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to talk about DC, Derek Carr. Listen, he's been a couple days since he retired, and there were some rumblings about this thing, and obviously it's injury related and the whole thing. But I know nobody's going to feel bad for a guy that made $200+ million in his career. But I do think he had bad luck. I think, to me, you know, you can say a lot of things about Derek Carr, but I think when you look back at his career, I'm certainly not saying he was elite, but what I am saying is, like, he had some bad breaks. He followed his brother, which, you know, he's regarded as one of the biggest misses in draft history. All due respect. I mean, it's like, that's kind of on the team, not him. He's doing the best he can. Like, that's why I call him a miss, not a bust, right? The miss is the missed shot by the GM. But I think a lot of people have conflated those two, even subconsciously. Like, coming in, he kind of had a reputation because his last name was Carr, right? And second rounder, Raiders leader in yards, touchdowns, and completions, which, although, you know, everything's skewed being in this era, like, that's still pretty impressive, right? Mm-hmm. And he did all this with 6 head coaches in Vegas and Oakland alone, right? Like,
9 years.
9 years. 4 or 5 offensive coordinators, tons of – I mean, like, look at the list of his head coaches, Cowboy, if you could pull them up. It doesn't scream like investment in the quarterback's development. I mean, Gruden is a guru, right? Everybody feels that way about John Gruden. Sparano was technically an offensive line coach. I mean, but there's not a great track record of O-line coaches being head coaches in the NFL. Like, I know you could probably find me 1 or 2 that's worked out, but, like, for my dollar, that's not like a really great way to maximize a quarterback's potential. He didn't really win, and I think that's a lot of it. Like, but how much of that is an organization? How much of that is him? You know, he comes into the AFC West with Manning in Denver, right? Like, that great defense. When he came in like 2014.
14, yes.
So he came in the AFC West about the same time that was going on, and then we all know what happened next, which is like, hey, kiss the division goodbye for a generation, right? And that's Patrick Mahomes. And so, like, it's a terrible time to play quarterback in the AFC West. Now, when he did win, it was like there was always a caveat. Like 2016, if you remember Derek Carr in 2016, that was an incredible year. I mean, he was playing as good a quarterback as any guy not named one of the absolute elites in the NFL. Like, good enough that they were talking about him like an MVP candidate. And if you remember, Week 16, Trent Cole broke his leg, and he just wasn't the same after that in the pocket. Like, I think the mobility, the confidence, was a little bit different after that. He also had more injuries down the line. And so, like, you talk about that year where everything's going well for him. He gets hurt late in the season. It bleeds into the next year. Like, that can really be tough in the prime of your career. Not a lot of quarterbacks get rolled up like that and miss significant time. We have a handful of them, like Dak Prescott. Tom Brady had an injury like that changed rules around the league, honestly. And so he didn't get to enjoy that postseason where I think they probably beat the Texans. I don't want to short the Texans, but that was one of the worst playoff games ever to watch. The playoff game against the Bengals, if you remember that game, the Rich Bisaccia game, right? Like, there was a questionable call in that game in the red zone that if you ask Raiders fans, like, what's the difference in the game? I'm not taking anything away from the Bengals. That's the way the cookie crumbles. But there's a lot, and it sounds like I'm making excuses for the guy. The point I'm trying to make is, I mean, he was a fucking pretty good player here. And he played 11 years in the NFL and voted to 4 Pro Bowls for what that's worth. Teammates seemed to like him. Famously, Devontae Adams followed him to literally hell to reunite with him. The guys I've talked to like him. Now, listen, Mike Thomas, Chris Olave might not like him for throwing hospital balls late in his career, right? But Saints fans might not like him because they paid him a boatload of money at the tail end of his career where he was physically probably shot.
What's his man's name
that
was going crazy on the internet this year?
Mike Thomas. I just brought him up.
Yeah.
So more than anything, that seems like a New Orleans problem to me. Like, again, it's kind of like being mad at David Carr. Like David Carr was doing the best he could. 32-year-old Derek Carr, probably not the guy you want quarterbacking your team or getting paid that much money. The Saints decided to do it. So when he retires, and listen, the reason I'm making this case is because when a guy like that retires, he's going to be polarizing, right? He's a quarterback. The wins and losses are attached to him, the whole thing. And you get all these other fan bases involved in the eulogy. And quite frankly, I think a lot of the stuff I've seen this week is pretty disrespectful. Like, I'm not going to – I don't feel sorry again for a guy that's made $200 million and lived out his dream and had a successful career. I mean, talk about Jersey retired or number retired at Fresno State. He's a legend there. Raiders leading passer and so many metrics. He had a successful career. And he retired this week, and I felt like everybody was just shitting on him. It was like – and maybe that's just a product of today's media and a product of today's online community where everybody just wants to shit on everybody, right, to make themselves feel better. But ask Raiders fans what they think of him. I think a lot of Raiders fans really respect Derek Carr, and I think he had a really good career, man. I mean, it's hard to be a quarterback in the NFL. So, I just wanted to say that. Like, listen, was he ever a top 5 quarterback? Maybe for a brief stretch, performatively, like from a standpoint of production.
Or Pro Bowls.
But I don't know if I'd ever put him in an elite category, but not many guys are. And so I think he should be proud of his career. And if you don't like him in New Orleans, you should probably blame your front office. If I'm Derek Carr, am I not gonna take the bag, in my 30s to go play quarterback for some other team? I mean, like, New Orleans seems to be the problem. New Orleans is the problem here. New Orleans has been kicking the can down the road on hitting the reset button at different junctures. I've said, like, oh, I like the fact as a player, because when you're a player, you want to be given a chance to win, right? Like, and you're not thinking like a fan, like, oh, we can sit this year out, or a media member and see the forest through the trees and say, hey, like, we need to hit the reset button. This year's going to suck. That's a lot harder to say to players. So I fall into the trap sometimes of, activity is progress, right? Where I'm sitting there imagining myself as a Saint, and I'm saying, oh, I'm glad they're giving Derek Carr a shot. Like, fuck it, take a shot at it. I don't have to live with the repercussions. And to me, looking back at it, the Saints, since Breeze left, have really struggled to move on. And I thought, like, it was their mistake paying him all this money, and he was shot physically, and he wasn't the same really good quarterback or solid quarterback in New Orleans, and it played out that way. And so, people are celebrating in the streets. I get that from a fan base standpoint, but ask Raiders fans what they think about him. I think most Raiders fans would say, I respect that guy. He showed a lot of class. He played his ass off. And he just never reached the promised land, so to speak. But who did in Vegas or L.A. this century? Like nobody. And so, yeah, he wasn't the guy that pulled the sword from the stone, but I thought he had a nice career. And I think where he could be really relevant in Saints history is he's the catalyst for them hitting the reset button. They needed to do this. Okay, however we got there, and Nolan's got a really good timeline of this whole thing, like whether he knew he was injured or didn't know he was injured or he was trying to set them up. Like, listen, I don't think if he was trying to set up the Saints to pay him $30 million, he would have just followed the timeline he followed. Like I would have, if I was trying to pull off a heist, I would have gone to OTAs and the first day acted like my assist in my arm exploded and be like, oh, this happened here, right? Mm-hmm. Like I do think, and maybe I'm being naive, that he probably knew something was wrong, but didn't know what to do, right? Like he's staring down the end of his career and that sort of thing. And now he's got to give the money back. You're going to be able to spread out some of the dead cap over the next couple of years. But the bottom line is, like, that's a big monkey off their back, right? And I think he's the guy, if he's given back the $30 million, which I think he is, because he knows he's not going to be able to.
Wait. He has to actually give money back to them?
No, it's money that he hadn't earned yet.
Oh, okay.
But it's money that, like, if he fought for it, I suppose he could put up a fight for it. But I also think if you're really retiring, you probably don't want your last chapter in the NFL to be like fighting a losing battle for $30 million because you know you're not going to get that money.
It was kind of a handshake because he kept his signing bonus that he got on signing, and then he forego or as you're saying, didn't fight for what's remaining on his contract.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the language within the retirement language voids that $30 million that had become guaranteed when he restructured, or when the team restructured his contract on March 8th without the knowledge of the shoulder.
They didn't know, and they didn't know, and reports are starting to swirl around and everything. And I think they probably had a feeling that something was wrong going into the draft. And I think some of the free agency moves that me and Nolan were talking about, like Chase Young, Justin Reed, like there's some signings that tell you they're trying to be competitive. And even when you're tanking, like, which I don't think is a thing that anybody overtly says, hey guys, we're tanking. You don't just leave the cupboard bare. You have to spend money. You have to look like there's activity going on. But I do think he saved them a year of trying to be competitive by just saying, hey, and probably doesn't have a choice. My shoulder's fucked up. I can't throw the ball anymore. Here's the money back. He could be the guy that forced a reset and a much-needed one that could yield an Arch Manning return. You think about that? Like the last time
You're sleeping on Tyler Shock?
Okay. The last time that they drafted a quarterback in the first round, I think, was his granddaddy.
Longest.
I mean, like they have the longest.
I think it was Archie.
1971.
Yeah. So 1971, Archie Manning. It's been 50+ years. It's been 50+ years since they drafted a quarterback in the first round, which is insane. When I heard that trivia question recently, I was thinking, oh, it must be a team that's had a lot of success. Or it must be a team like the Packers or something like. No, it's been this team that's not known for honestly having a ton of awesome quarterbacks. And they've somehow survived as an organization, not drafting quarterbacks in the first round. This reset could yield them doing just that next year, and that would be something if it was the progeny, not directly, of well, it is. Is that technically progeny of Archie Manning?
Is your grandkid your progeny? I'll say yes.
So it's an interesting deal, man. Like, and it. Listen, they could be strangely competitive this year. We don't know with this shot kid. And Kellen Moore says open competition. I don't necessarily buy that. I think he probably has a feeling on who he wants to give the nod to. I also don't believe that he really believes that the future is in the building. He said that. Like that's coach speak, like 101. There's no way. But if this kid ends up being pretty good, great. If he doesn't, and it's a disaster this year, you're going to break that trend and you're going to draft a quarterback in the first round next year, and you've ripped the Band-Aid completely off. But, like, Derek Carr retiring, Ryan Ramczyk retiring, the core is aging. Like, it just makes a lot of sense. They've been trying to cash in on this aging core since Breeze left, and it's just not working. Out with the old guard. And, like, listen, they're not the only people that have a hard time recovering when a Hall of Famer leaves. Like, you look around the league, it probably takes 5-7 years for most of these franchises. Your Giants, right? And I just did the thing with Eli. I called him a Hall of Famer, but Hall of Fame caliber, Super Bowl winning quarterback, like generational kind of guy.
Yep.
The Steelers are still in it, right? Like they've done a lot better at masking it, right? With some of their institutional fortitude, like being able to get to 500 and make a couple runs, but they haven't figured it out. And honestly, you could look around the league, and Andrew Luck's another example. The Colts are still putting a Band-Aid on that thing. So it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, like the Packers are an anomaly, right? Like losing Aaron Rodgers and having a Jordan Love waiting in the wings. The Chargers are an anomaly, right? Where, Phillip Rivers, who, again, like I'm not trying to do the thing, but you know what I mean, long-time quarterback, franchise quarterback, retires, and before you know it, they have Justin Herbert. Now, I know he went to Indy and that sort of thing at the end of his career, but the point I'm making is it's not easy to turn the page. And as evidenced by the Saints, who seem really competent and like they know what they're doing, they've struggled to turn the page. So I think it's about time they do that. And I hope that getting lost in New England. Did I mention New England?
Mm-mm.
New England. They just got a glimmer of hope, right? Like they had a glimmer of hope with Mac Jones, but like they haven't quite. And they're a pretty good comparison. I'm not saying that New Orleans is on the level of New England, but they tried to keep things real in-house, right? Like Dennis Allen's sticking around. We're like the same program, the whole thing. And the Patriots tried to do the same thing. The key is finding a fucking quarterback and moving on. And I think that's what New Orleans is on a quest to do, and it might be a long year.
And like this past season, to your Arch Manning or the next quarterback point, how much better are they set up for another quarterback? How much more does that new quarterback want to go there? Like, you think this offseason, the cap space and everything, probably not a very
They're going to be Archie's Aints.
Yeah.
Listen, and next year, they're still going to be – it's not going to be like
not an
a
overnight
shopping spree
yeah.
in 26.
Right.
But what they can do is say, okay, we're going to have a really good draft, and in a year we're going to be out of cap hell, and we can start building around hopefully who is the next franchise
2 young
quarterback.
tackles.
You know what they
the
need to
last
do?
few drafts.
They need to go find those chickens, cut their necks, get that blood, and start doing that mojo voodoo stuff.
The mojo voodoo stuff.
Yeah, I mean they're down there. It's around. They just need to go all in.
I agree with you.
It would be so dope if Archie, like he did with his son Eli, and redirecting him from San Diego to New York, redirected grandson Arch away from New Orleans.
No chance. That'd be hilarious. Couldn't do it though.
You talk all about health and situation. I think 2 very similar careers, though you'll call one quarterback elite and one not. Stafford in Detroit, he goes to LA and wins the Super Bowl, is not too dissimilar from Derek Carr with the Raiders. And if Derek Carr had found himself somewhere like Pittsburgh and won a title, I think we'd be talking a lot differently about his career.
And you're right. I would call one of them elite and one of them not. But there are some – and there's a lot of players like this in the NFL where, you could look back at their career and say, hey, like, fuck, dude, what might have been – all the while he made a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Like, so nobody feels sorry for him. And I understand that's kind of to some people, money's everything, and I don't blame them because they don't have any of it. And I get that. And you're looking at a guy who's got $200 million, and you're like, I would never in my life feel sorry for the guy. But I can tell you, like, how your career goes and how it ends, and it weighs on you, and it sticks with you. And, like, I just hope that he walks away and he's like, hey, I've had a very good career, and I'm respected by the franchise that I played 9 years for. And whatever happened on the way out the door trying to get the bag, yeah, I might have stuck him up, but it wasn't on purpose. Like, it just, New Orleans, they made a bad decision, and they're still paying for it. But that's not Derek Carr's business.
And it's not Derek Carr's fault that his eyes look like he's wearing
Mascara.
eyeliner.
Yeah.
That's just the way he looks.
Did we ask him when he came on if he wears mascara?
We didn't.
I probably
Not that
one.
specific
We did not.
question.
What did I say specifically? Did I hint at it?
No.
Didn't hint at it at all.
Yeah. No, I think that I think you started off with a play between you two.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, I was offsides.
yeah.
I sacked him a few times. I think I sacked him 3 times. But listen, I'll just say this: I have respect for him. my rant earlier was just to say I'm not trying to cape for the guy. There's going to be somebody inevitably who's going to be like, "Oh, you're the biggest Derek Carr fan." Really, that's not the case. I just know what that context matters. He's had all these coaches, all these coordinators, and he was trying to win in Oakland and Vegas. Has that happened in a long time? You know, you can call him the coach killer. You can say he's the reason they had so many coaches, but I would go on a limb and say, like, where are these guys succeeding elsewhere? Mm-hmm. Like, Gruden's the only one, right?
And shout out to David Carr for setting that bar where he did.
Let me ask you this: You think his agent is pissed, leaving $30 million on the table? That's
well, no, his agent.
If his agent was the same,
I think his agent understands. I think his agent. I wonder if his agent knew that he was hurt. Listen, I don't want to get picked apart here. I'm not sure. I don't have a take on whether he knew it or not. But here's what I would have done. Like, if you're really trying to like bamboozle him, you come in and act like you got hurt at practice.
Yep.
Now the MRI will probably show it's an older injury. So that's
Get one of these teenagers to film a sizzle reel of you throwing it only goes 6 yards, but it looks like it goes 60. Pew.
That's what they're going to do.
Tight shot on the ball.
That's what they're going to do in 26 when he comes back as a Colt. They're going to be doing because the Colts, man, they're addicted to veteran help, bro. They really are. And Ross Tucker, who I really respect, was like, "Hey, I don't think he's done because I don't know anybody who's just going to turn down $30 million. I don't think it's so much of turning down $30 million. I think it's more like I know I'm not going to have that money, so like let me just not fight over it. And I want to leave the door open. If you're Ross Tucker, Ross thinks he's leaving the door open for coming back at some point.
So wait. So like, is that money poof gone? So if he gets better and like the Saints take him back, they have to give him that $30 million again?
The Saints, if he got better in the Saints, if he unretired, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
No.
Nolan, I don't think so.
No.
So that money,
that money, that $30 million was voided from when they restructured him. It became guaranteed. So if he were to come out of retirement, it would be probably a different deal.
Yeah.
void.
Yeah.
So back into the owner's bank.
So yeah, back into the owner, back into the Benson family trust.
$30 million.
Yeah, they can throw that at some help for Arch Manning in a couple years.
The last football topic in this open, we've got football schedule release 2025. Eagles Cowboys. Thursday, September 4th. It's going to be the kickoff game.
Where's
it's
it
going to
at?
see
Philly. We're not going down to Dallas to play the fucking Cowboys. They just won a Super Bowl. They ain't going to Dallas. You got to come play the Eagles. By the way, this might be a good time to just play the CD Lamb audio. Can you do that? I know I told you to do it later, but can you do it now as we talk about this rivalry? I mean,
Who has a more passionate fan base, the Eagles or the Cowboys?
I can answer that. Eagles.
Eagles?
They're crazy. Our Cowboys, our fans are deep, but they not. I don't want to say nothing crazy, but
You've already said something crazy.
Who has a more passionate fan base, the Ravens or the Chiefs?
to me, the Ravens.
Look at Derek. Look at Derek Henry being smart
Got the dynasty right now, so
and lying through his teeth.
hard not to say them either.
Just
Who
lying
has a
through his teeth.
more
That's just what the
passionate
moment
fan
demanded. The moment demanded that you lied through your teeth, CeeDee Lamb, and you didn't do it. You know, like what possessed him to answer that way?
The best policy.
Honesty.
I got some
The
added
fucking
respect
passion.
for CD Lamb with that response.
Well, no, I mean, so CeeDee Lamb is going to be playing in front of the most passionate fans in the NFC East here coming up.
They're gonna be booing his ass.
Although, if you had to rank passion in the NFC East, Commanders are up there because Commanders fans, they risk their lives every fucking week to go view that team play in that stadium.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have some serious passion to watch a game there. I'm not cut out for it. I'll go Eagles, Commanders, Giants.
I don't know.
Because the Giants, well, no, I mean, think about being a Giants fan right now. You got to have some passion.
all those fans that showed up for Tommy
Yeah.
Cutlets.
But there aren't. Like, it's a
You think
easy
it's
place to play.
You think it because there's no fans?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is that none of them show up there?
I don't know. got a little fat and happy after a couple world championships 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And now you're
it's
waiting
just-
for it to come back around.
They're like the Cowboys without
The depth,
without-
as CD said.
without the depth, and then also without the mediocre play. Like y'all just went full on bad.
Right. And got the cushy stadium, which also happened to Dallas.
It's cushy, but boy, is it sterile.
Right.
It is so gross. I mean, it's just like, anyways, don't need to say anything more there. But yeah, no, so the opener.
How many times do you think they're going to cut as the Eagles banner is raised? How many times are they going to cut to Jerry Jones in his suite?
Well, I don't know that they're going to raise it live, but it's a layup. It's a lot like that question that CeeDee Lamb was just asked. A fucking layup, dude. And he just missed the layup. They won't miss that layup. They'll have Jerry Jones on TV.
Jarrah can be in the toilet while they're doing that.
Right. Well, no, here's what I'm really interested in this game is, and this isn't just a this game thing, it's probably a year-long thing, if not longer. Who is George Pickens gonna make his Highlander beef in the NFC East? You ever see the movie Highlander? No. It's about these people that have like eternal beefs with each other. Like they die, they get reincarnated, and they're beefing forever. So when I say a Highlander beef, I mean like who's gonna be his. Well, shit, he just had one on the Cowboys. It was guy that just went down to Jacksonville.
Yeah. Seen the clip.
Oh, Jordan Lewis.
Yeah, Jordan Lewis was his Highlander beef this year, and probably will continue to be. Jacksonville, Dallas is going to be must-see TV next time they play because of that.
I have a take,
but I think it's going to be Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, that was my answer.
I think it's Cooper DeJean. I don't think guys like being tackled that hard by a White, and I definitely don't think George Pickens is going to like it. I think those guys are going to be going at each other.
It's going to be fun this year. But I think I actually like that landing spot for Pickens. I think him and CeeDee Lamb, like if Dax come back and Dax is decent, I think either way you put it, if guys – Pickens is really a number one. If he gets his head on straight, he's a number one.
Question.
So they have a one
on straight.
Exactly. They have a 1A and 1B if it takes off a little bit of pressure from CeeDee Lamb, or if they think Pickens is better, I think it's going to bode well for them, honestly, down there. So I'm excited to see what happens. But he's a ticking time bomb, so it's going to be interesting to see how it works out.
All you need to know is that Pittsburgh couldn't trade him till after the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yep.
Bro, like that. You should be able to trade a player with that much talent if you're pretty sure you're going to do it ahead of the draft. Couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think his reputation precedes him at this point, and there's some sourcing via The Athletic, I believe, that said like teams laughed at the prospect of adding him to their roster, which is crazy to me because he's so fucking talented.
But Jerry, that's the one thing we can't say about Jerry. Jerry's been through this before, and like I mean, the whole Des Bryant thing was so polarizing, and they had to get him 24-hour security and all this other stuff. So
yeah, but
if any owner and organization can maybe handle it a little bit, is maybe them.
Can I give Des Bryant some love here?
Yeah.
Fucking guy never took a playoff that I remembered.
Oh no,
and like,
no,
listen,
I hear that.
Like
the taking plays off thing,
and also the volatility. Yeah, sure, Des was a little volatile at times.
Yeah, that's
like,
the same thing about like when people compare it to AB. Like it's just like AB was crazy, but AB
you cannot
hard.
compare AB to Pickens.
If you watch AB's tape, he don't take plays off.
AB is known as a grinder.
Yeah,
like AB was a grinder.
Yeah,
and so like say what you want about AB post football, but AB or what kind of a guy he was off the field or whatever. But like Pickens to me is so talented.
Yeah.
It could definitely work out, but you're getting contract year Pickens, so that to me is like the biggest hedging of the bet for Dallas is like knowing that this guy wants to cash in.
Yep.
So he's going to be hopefully on his best behavior. Anyways,
I wonder how much that contract year plays into GM when they're trying to sign somebody. You know, if someone has had issues in the past, hey, it's their contract year. They might be on their best.
I think it does.
Big time.
I think it does play in.
Big time.
You know, and if you look at things on a shorter timeline, you're like, at worst, we have a rental of a player that's motivated. And I think Jerry's looking at things like, hey, I don't have forever.
Yep.
So,
Slim Pickens, Cowboys receiver, doesn't like what he sees on open market.
Slim Pickens.
I got a funny thing to tell you later.
Okay. You're fired.
All right, so evidently Beau Allen had a conversation with Jason Licht, general manager of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, today. That's Monday. Your yesterday, as you are listening. And supposedly it was a good interview.
It was a great conversation. Beau's former boss talked Tampa Bay, the 2025 Bucs draft picks, and gave a great point about Mike Evans, how he almost drafted Johnny Manziel over him, but he watched that Manziel tape, and Mike Evans was the one who jumped off the film.
He also played Fuck, Marry, Kill with Jason Licht, which you can stick around for that.
Nice.
So, yeah, we want to let the big man work down there in Tampa, and that's what you're going to be hearing today, and then stick around for a little C block.
All right, welcome back. Greenlight Pod with Beau Allen here, joined by Jason Licht, Bucs GM since 2014, one of the longest tenured GMs in the NFL, and a guy that I've personally enjoyed, working for and working with. Jason, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for finally having me on.
Yeah, no, prestigious podcast here.
No doubt.
You know, it's exciting when I kind of worked for you, and now we're collaborating on creating some media content. It's fun.
No, you guys are a lot of fun, man. It's fun watching you guys.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that. So let's just get right into it. The draft was, right a couple weeks ago here, and I'm sure you guys are kind of finishing up rookie minicamp. And all. Was that last week, rookie minicamp?
Yeah, we just finished it up yesterday, right?
Yeah, how'd it go?
Yeah, good.
No major surprises?
No, everybody was what we thought or exceeded expectations, so that's good.
It's all positive.
At this point, though. At this point.
It's still so early.
Very early.
The rookie mini camps and stuff like that, it's always like non-padded and stuff these days, right? So it's not like true camp football, so to speak.
No, and like the bigger guys like yourself, you're not gonna stand out. It's you watch the pretty little skill players, move around athletically, and you ooh and ah.
Yeah, and then all the big boys do individual.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but all the reports coming back from the coaches and everything, everybody was impressive. So,
yeah, well, I'm happy to hear that. Actually, that's one of the questions I had for you is just going through this, this class of rookies. If you could give one word, you have 6 draft picks in the 2025 draft. Igbuka, Morrison, Parrish, Walker, Roberts, and Johnson. Obviously, guys that you're very familiar with, that you liked, that you're impressed by. Can you just give me one word to describe each of these guys?
Yeah. So, Emeka, I would just say reliable.
Yeah.
Morrison, I would say ball hawk.
Okay.
Parrish, feisty.
That's good. That is like what I would want. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Keep going.
Walker, freak.
That's good too, man.
Elijah Roberts, steady. And then Tez Johnson, fun.
Okay. So like steady, just like as a defensive lineman, when you're steady, you're just a Beau Allen type player. Like, you know where you're going to be, a little bit of a coach's pet, good locker room guy.
Sort of a little bit different with him. He's more of a pressure player. You're more of a run stopper. So
hey,
no offense.
Don't put me in a box. No, you're not wrong on that one. I'm excited to follow these draft picks, man. I'll keep those notes in mind and see if that kind of unfolds the way that you're expecting in the upcoming season.
So I had my son here my youngest son, my 11-year-old, at practice yesterday. He brought his friend Jackson, to practice and told me, just stay out of the way. You can watch. And he said, can we get an autograph? I said, yeah, absolutely. So get into practice. Guys are just coming out there. He runs right by Emeka, get out of the way. Wants Tez Johnson's autograph. That's their favorite player. So it's funny how what kids are attracted to. It must be because Tez probably has more followers. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I know he was a fan of Fat Thor. One of your sons was a fan of Fat Thor back in the day.
No doubt.
Maybe he's a Desmond Watson guy too.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of questions about him at home, around the dinner table. Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean that's a big boy right there. You talk about run stuffer. I mean, he's going to stop the tush push. If him and Vita can't do it, I don't know who can.
May or may not been in the back of our minds. But.
Yeah, no kidding. So I was actually just at the draft a couple weeks ago. Made a pick in the second round, which was cool. But I'm always curious what draft day is like for GM, especially day one, because you guys are kind of sitting around all day, and the draft doesn't start till 8. Are you how aware? Or I guess how much mobility is there on your board, and how aware of what other teams are, what they're trying to do are you? Are you always kind of guessing of what other teams are going to do, or do you have a pretty good picture of where they're at?
Well, it's guessing, but we know. I mean, I have a unbelievable staff, and so they spend a lot of time dissecting every team's roster, and we kind of know what every team wants or needs. At least what we perceive their biggest needs are. And then we track the players that they brought in. We track the players that they worked out. We track a lot of the stuff that's out there, that, interviews that GMs or head coaches had about players, just to kind of get a feel. And we do a pretty good job. Nobody's 100% accurate, but do a pretty good job at knowing what's going to go, what could happen. And then we talk to each other a little bit. We heard the Niners are doing this. We heard the Eagles are doing that. Well, you never know fucking how he's going to do that kind of shit.
Yeah.
I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
And but it's but draft day actually, like in the morning, since it starts so late, I don't get here till noon. I walk the dog. I take it's a
leisurely start to the day, and then chaos.
Leisurely start to the day. The phone's not buzzing.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen till later. So it's I just try to relax as much as I can but then I can't help myself. I get in here and, we start looking at the board again.
Right.
And we have our minds made up what we're going to do, but you start second guessing. Then that's what you want to stop from doing. So that's why I try to stay away as long as I can on draft day.
Yeah, it's like the hay's already in the barn at that point.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the thing that's so interesting to me also is because, obviously the first round is the big night, and a lot of those picks have been the most studied, but you can really get some great guys on day 3. I was a 7th round pick, and it feels to me like day 3, there's just so much more movement. You don't really know what teams are going to do on day 3 as much. Is it a lot more chaotic as the draft continues?
I don't want to say chaotic, but it's just more, I've learned over the years that even starting in the 3rd round, you start, okay, wow, we weren't expecting that guy to go there. Yeah. And, it's just whatever's the beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So teams have players ranked differently. And, so it is kind of, you just learn to know you can't expect the unexpected.
So this is your first draft without John Spytek, a guy I'm a big fan of. Easy guy to talk to, kind of a player's front office guy. Did you fuck with him at all on game day? Did you give him a prank call or anything like that?
I didn't this year. I just knew that he had a lot going on. It's, his first year. I remember going back to my first year. I didn't know any of the staff here. I felt like it was just me locked in a room watching tape, and I was trying to watch everybody, and I got the first one right, Mike Evans. So that's, but
yeah, you got that one right, Jason.
I will starting next year. It's funny. I was doing, I can't remember where I was. I think I was doing Rich Eisen show podcast, and he asked me about Spytek or something. I said, I'm trying to get rid of Michigan guys, so we finally got rid of Brady. We got rid of Spytek. I had to sign Ben Bredesen back because he's a good player, but we took Emeka because I wanted to offset the Michigan thing.
Right.
And somebody, I started getting messages and direct DMs saying, that's so rude of you to say about Brady after all he's done for you. I mean, it's like, come on, take a joke.
You're clearly being facetious. You know what I mean? It's like, come on. No, I think you need to get rid of Michigan guys. Maybe get some more Wisconsin guys on the roster.
We do need some Wisconsin guys.
Yeah.
We do.
All right. Well, I'll put a good word in for you. But no, can you just talk about Spytek a little bit and what Raiders fans can expect from their new GM?
Well, he's very sharp. He's very confident. He was a reliable guy. He's a loyal guy. He and I met back in 2005. He was one of our interns in Philly when I worked for the Eagles.
Yep.
And we ultimately promoted him to a scout. And then he and I, my wife and his wife, we got along back then and stayed in touch. Crazy story. When I moved here, got this job, I was going to try to hire him, but it didn't work out at the time. But my direct neighbor, he's lived right next to me. He and I are like basically taking the trash out one day, and he said, "Hey, did you know that Spytek and I were roommates in college? He's one of my best friends." It was crazy.
Yeah, small world, man.
So, a couple years later, it finally worked out where I was able to bring him in, and he's a great evaluator. He's a great leader. He's going to be missed. He did a good job training these guys that I have here, and well, some of them didn't need trained, but he did a good job. He did a good job with these guys, the young scouts that we have here that put him in a good position.
Yeah, I mean, so going back to the draft, this is what's so interesting to me. College football, the landscape of it has changed so much, especially since I was in college. But, NIL, but especially the transfer portal. And I know you're a small school guy. Like, you've drafted some incredible talent out of smaller schools. Like, how does the NIL and the transfer portal specifically affects scouting guys like, Ali Marpet, who went to Hobart, or, Cody Mock, or, I don't know, Scotty Miller, some of these other guys who you've picked up on in the draft from small schools. How are they impacted by NIL and the transfer portal?
Well, I hope I'm wrong, but I kind of see the way it's going now with the portal that if there's a good player at Hobart, like Ali,
yep,
he's not going to be at Hobart for long. They're going to convince him to come to one of the Power 5 or major schools because of the money and, the prestige and all that. Now, there are certain guys like Ali who have the way they're wired. They don't want to leave their school. They don't want to do that to them. They like it where they're at. But I just kind of see, hopefully not, but fewer and fewer of those types of players. I mean, what school would want Cody Mock or Ali Marpet, or David Walker? I'm shocked that he was able to stay at Central Arkansas for as long as he was, for as productive as he was.
Yeah, and when you're evaluating a guy, not necessarily from a small school, but do you put, like, if there's a guy who's a really good player who's kind of stayed in the same spot, maybe it's a mid-level college, does that, kind of tell you something specific about that guy? Do you maybe, take note of that in your pre-draft visits and in information gathering phase? Like, this is a dude who's loyal, who hasn't moved around. Like, does that carry a lot of weight with you?
It does carry some weight. It's definitely a plus, but it's also in these cases, like with Ali and David Walker. Now they did go to the Senior Bowl and they played pretty well against top competition.
Yeah.
So we were able to see, at least compare apples to apples there. So, but it is pretty cool deal that they do stay loyal to their coaching staff, their school, all those kind of things. I think it tells you a little something about it, but that's not to say that if somebody does leave and tries to, wants an opportunity at a bigger school, that's not a check mark against them either.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. That's my biggest gripe with the transfer portal is, like, I love my time in Wisconsin at college. I don't feel that guys are going to have the same kind of consistent college experience that I love, but hey, the game has evolved and this is what it's become. So,
well, certainly they're not having the same kind of experience that I had. I don't know about you, but $50 went a long ways in terms of beers on the weekend, and now they're making millions. So
I know that was my one thing. Everyone's like, "What?" We'd be in the locker room and shit, and the guys from the SEC would be like, "What did you get paid at school?" I'd be like, "Motherfucker, I remember after a big game, I got a free beer at Wando's in Wisconsin on the third floor, and I was hyped about it. And that was like the only kind of freebie I got during my whole college career. Nowadays, these dudes are pulling up in Lambos and stuff to the facility. It's
financial team around them. Already know how to invest and understand the market and all that stuff.
Good for them, Jason.
Yeah.
So you mentioned this already. I was excited to bring this up, but Mike Evans was your first ever pick as the GM for the Buccaneers. How did it feel in Week 18 when you guys are playing the Saints in 2024, and you saw Mike have his 11th 1,000 yards receiving season in a row. Like, what was that like for you to see your first ever pick do that 11 years later?
I honestly got choked up. It was that will go down as one of the top memories in my career. Just for, and you know Mike, just for what Mike, just for what he means to the team. He's such a selfless superstar, and like my family, they all feel like they know Mike, like he's part of our family, and I think everybody here feels that way too, because he's one of those guys. But just to see how the team responded for that, I didn't think it was going to happen. I was getting texts from Bruce like, "Tell Todd to call fucking timeout," like.
Well, the whole game scenario leading up to that was so great because you guys were driving down the field and then ended up scoring, and then everyone was like, "Well, fuck, I don't think Mike's going to get it," and then to go out back on the field in a game where, like if you throw a pick, like the game is not quite secure, and
right.
To really kind of force feed the ball to Mike and get him that record, and then to see everyone go crazy on the sidelines, like I got chills. I was watching it. It's just so cool, man. Like you said it, Mike. He's the man. Everyone knows it. He deserves it.
Oh yeah, I think our last play before that series where we got Mike the ball, where we scored the touchdown, the play was supposed to go to Mike. I think it was the same play that Mike got his 1,000 yards that they called, but the Saints were covering it. And Baker's like, shit, I guess I got to throw it to Bucky. Bucky scores. But they were like, we had to win the game. So
everyone's like disappointed that Bucky went out and scored like the go-ahead touchdown because they wanted Mike to get the record.
To win the division.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I do want to talk a little bit. I mean, you mentioned want to talk a little bit about the 2024 season. You talked about Bucky Irving. Like we've been talking about the draft, evaluating young players. Were you expecting him to literally come out running the way he did as an unbelievable rookie for you guys last year?
I guess I have to be fully transparent. No, we knew that he was a talented runner. We knew that he was a fun runner to watch because of his instincts, his quickness, his make you miss ability. All that kind of stuff. And he's a stronger player than what his size tells you. And but I wasn't expecting, quite what he did. I think if I would have expected that, I would have taken him in a lot higher than the 4th round.
Yeah.
So I think the whole league, I think he shocked everybody in the league. And I would be lying if I said, no, we knew, right, that he was going to be what he was.
That's why I'm a fucking GM, Beau. All right, I know what I'm doing. You can say stuff like that. It's all right.
Yeah, well, he was a lot of fun. He's an awesome dude too, man. He is just He's always doing something to make himself
I've been
better.
training with him a little bit in the offseason down here.
Oh, you know him.
And it's been fun. Yeah, so I've gotten to know him a little bit. And he's just one of those young players that's like got good energy. And it's like fun to be around as a fucking washed up vet, because I'm like, give me some of your energy today, man. He's a great guy. But really impressed with his play. And then, the Bucs historically over the last 5 years, the run game has been, not as good as I'm sure you want it to be. So what was it about the 2024 season that kind of got the run game back on track? Was it Bucky? Was it Rashad? Was it the O-line? Was there one thing in particular?
I think it was all of them. And Kevin Carberry, Brian Picucci, I think Liam brought a great scheme in. We got Graham Barton, who's a hell of a player, a great center as a rookie. For them to get him as successful as he was for being a rookie, that says a lot about the coaching staff. And then Bucky and Rashad were a good 1-2 punch, and Sean Tucker too.
He's pretty pleased with his 2024 season. I think He's a good player.
Well, yeah. I mean, he had to go in there in the Saints game, and all he did was rush for whatever it was, 170 or whatever it was. I think it was more than that. So, but so I think it was just a combination of all those things. It was a fresh start in a lot of ways, and I think we needed that.
Yeah, and then the thing I was really impressed with too is you have in the 2024 season, we can just I want to talk about this and then move on to other stuff, but you have Mike go down, Chris goes down, and those are your two top dogs on the offense, and it didn't really feel like Baker missed a beat, and you guys really got the run game going. So I think exactly what you're saying. It's a total testament to the entire offensive staff and players offensively to kind of just figure out a way to get it done.
It was awesome. I mean, it wasn't awesome that those guys were hurt. That's for sure. That was that was a kick in the gut, I should say, when that happened. But it for them, the coaches to get it schemed up, where we had guys like Sterling Shepard and J Mac step up, Ryan Miller. I mean, we had a lot of guys. That Kate Otten ended up becoming a really crucial player for us. But for Baker to handle it all the way he did, that could scare a lot of quarterbacks off, spook them into saying, "Geez, I'm down, two, elite receivers. What am I going to do?" But he had the confidence to get through it, and everybody. He's a phenomenal leader, and everybody just kind of followed his lead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy you brought up Baker. I love Baker. I think he's a great dude, a guys. Just what you're saying, like he really galvanizes the locker room. So looking back to like that 2023 offseason, you take a guy like Baker, his first overall pick. He's at a stage in his career where he is, just kind of bounced around a little bit. Hasn't had the same opportunities at this stage as he did as a first overall pick. Like, how do you evaluate a guy like that? And what was it about the situation for the Bucs where you're like, yeah, we can bring him in and it will be successful?
Well, there are a few things at play there. So one, we didn't have a lot of cap money at all. Yeah. I mean, we were in such dire cap. I mean, we had
Greeny was working.
Greeny was working. Like there were like, even after the draft right now, we guarantee some money for these undrafted guys. And, I mean, if they make a practice squad or your practice squad, it offsets the guarantee, but we couldn't even guarantee a lot of money because we had no cap room. It was like, literally it came down to the dollars. So he was affordable at the time. He wanted to come here because he saw the talent, the receivers, the line, all those things. And Todd knew him very well from his time in New York doing, when they took Sam Darnold that year. But, they got to know Baker, and he always talked about Baker. And Bruce was always in my ear about Baker, how much he loved him. So it was kind of a perfect fit. And it just worked out. I think he finally found a place where everybody wanted him, and everybody was willing to, fight for him and stand behind him. And I think it worked out. And I think there were some other things going on with him that, maybe he wasn't at his peak, but now it's behind him and he's got a fresh start. And I think he loves it here in Tampa. And I hope he's here for a very long time.
Yeah, he's fun to watch, man. I love Baker. He's so ratty. I mean, and I mean that in the best possible way. Like, he's a competitor. He's got that juice, and like I feel like all the guys in the locker room love him, and that shit goes such a long way, man.
You can relate to this. So somebody told me a long time ago in my beginning of my career, it's like, you're either a dude or you're not a dude. And right away. And Baker's just a dude,
He is that man.
Yeah, he is that man.
Yeah, well, I want to ask you about that, too, especially when we were talking about the draft. I saw on McAfee you have the big image of, the fat head of Levante up. And so you're telling me that every single guy that you compare to, when you're evaluating them in the draft, you look at that photo of Levante and you say, he is that man. And if he is, then you're good. And if he's not, he's off the board.
Yeah, and there's different levels of that man, but you have to. We're looking like Levante is the epitome of it. You could say Mike Evans is too. You could say Godwin. You could say a lot of players. We combined. We went back and looked at the history of the league, really, but the Bucs we focused on. Guys like Derek Brooks and John Lynch and Rondé Barber is one of my best friends here, and all these. And are they accountable? Do they love football? Do they have a lot of passion for it? Are they great teammates? Do they work hard? All these things on the field, in the locker room. It's they may not be. You don't have to be earning your Boy Scout badges. Off the field. You don't want a criminal,
right?
But
you want a fine line to walk. You don't want a Boy Scout. You want a guy with some shit to him. I think
it's okay if there's been a little bit. Hey, if you went down if there was social media when I was in college, it'd be all kinds of stuff you could find on me. So, but it's you want a good teammate, basically. You want a great teammate that it means something to be on the team, and he's gonna be behind his teammates, and that's Levante, and that's what we want.
Yeah, totally. And we have a reoccurring segment on the pod. It's called Fly on the Wall. And it's kind of, if you could be a fly on a wall in, any kind of situation, what would it be? So I was wondering if you remember, take us through, if I was a fly on the wall when you guys are drafting like Vita Vea or Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, Tristan Wirfs or Winfield, like, do you remember drafting these key pieces and kind of some of the conversations that were had about them, before you ultimately drafted them?
Yeah. Well, going back to Mike, my first pick, I really went into that draft wanting to draft a quarterback. So I really wanted to draft Johnny Manziel.
Really?
I locked myself in my office watching quarterbacks that year. And I watched, I'd wake up again. Okay, I got to watch Johnny Manziel again. So let me watch it again. And every time I was watching it, it was just Mike would just make these spectacular catches like we know that he does right now. And it just came back to, like, when we talked about Manziel, I was like, well, did you see that one game? And it was that's the one that Mike had the, this and this. And it just became apparent that Mike was the guy, not, that we wanted. That was best for us. Like you mentioned Tristan, that was the COVID draft.
Yep.
And I joke around a lot. We got Tristan and Antoine in that draft. And I'm like, well, maybe we should all draft from home again. Remember, we were so worried that we weren't going to get Tristan, and we were trying to trade as much as high. We were sitting at 14. We were trying to go up to 9, and they didn't want to trade 10, 11, 12, 13. And finally, I was just bound and determined to trade to get him. So turns out, moved up one spot for a 4th rounder. And it was Spytek that was doing that one. I was responsible for some teams. Spytek was. I had other people, Greenberg, some other teams, Jackie Davison. But it turned out that the Niners were in talks with a team behind us, and there was deciding whether to take our 4th or take more for a team behind us to come up to the pick. And thank God they did ours. So that's why I ended up giving up the 4th round pick. So 2 4th round picks that year were for Tristan and Gronk. That was 2 of the best 4th round picks that we've had so far.
Yeah, no kidding. That'll work for you. And I tell this dude, I'll never forget that same year as COVID year. You draft Tristan, and we were all training at Skyway. I was training to be a New England Patriot, and I see this fucker walk out on the field, and I saw him move for like literally 30 seconds, and I was just like, yeah, this guy's going to be an all-pro. It was like one of the fastest, easiest, this is a guy. You know what I mean? He's so explosive for how big he is. It's incredible.
And he's a dude.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So it was the first time we lined up in training camp that year. The first rep, I went, okay, yep, we're good.
Yeah, we're gonna be all right here. Good.
We're all right. Yeah.
And you mentioned Gronk, so I got to ask you about Gronk. You were in New England in 2011, which was Rob's rookie year, and then obviously in Tampa in 2021 for the end of his career, a little bookend with Rob. Did he
2020 got him in 2020?
Oh yeah, 2020. Yeah, that's right. Did he develop at all? Was he? I just imagine his mentality and kind of the guy he was being the exact same in the beginning of his career and the end of his career. You know what I mean?
He was the same guy. I mean, he's not when he makes a big play and he's into it, he's having fun, saying crazy stuff and fun stuff, and he's always just been the same. Yeah. It's not like he's out there being a class clown either. He's very focused. Oh, yeah. It's just when he talks, it's just the funniest shit comes out of his mouth. It's like
it's one of those things where I played against him a bunch, and then obviously I met him and hang out with him in Tampa, and it's one of those rare instances where you meet a guy and you're like, yeah, you're exactly what I thought you'd be.
Yeah, exactly.
But I had Cam and Rob on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and Cam told a really funny story about when you guys first signed Rob, and Rob Gronkowski, legend, best tight end of the game. And then Cam went out and was running routes with him at Berkeley because you guys couldn't train at the facility. And he said that Rob looked so slow, so out of shape, and that was the slowest he's ever seen an NFL football player run. Did you guys have any idea of that, or did you work him out, or was it COVID and you couldn't get him in for a physical?
We couldn't work him out. I took Brady's word for it. Yeah. And I wasn't too worried about it. Rob wasn't one of those guys that on air, he's going to really impress you like being the most explosive, quickest guy. It's when he puts pads on is when he out leverages people and, gets a second gear and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, and I'm shitting on Rob because he's my buddy and everything, but he is the best tight end of all time, and he's a fucking dog on the field, and we all know that. It's just funny. It's just funny to hear Cam tell that story. But you brought up Tom. I want to ask you a little bit about Tom because you were with him. So you had a double stint in New England, right? You were there in 99 to 2002, and 99 you were a college scout.
Yeah.
Right. So did you scout Tom to be drafted in the 6th round, or how'd that unfold?
I was fully responsible for him becoming I'm joking. I was a Southeast scout. He obviously played at Michigan. I didn't watch any tape. I was focused on my area. I heard the talks during the draft meetings and all that kind of stuff. I know that Bill and Scott Pioli was the personnel director, and Bobby Greer actually was the vice president player personnel during the draft, and then he left after the draft. And he had Michigan ties, and so a lot of positive things about him. And I know that Bill ended up putting him on the board, Bill and Scott, like basically in that 2nd, 3rd round area, but we didn't need a quarterback at the time. Right. And then he was like staring at him in the face in the 6th round, so he took him. But he did, his credit, he had him very high for all of the things that Tom is. He knew about that.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know if he knew that he was going to be a Hall of Fame, first ballot, quarterback. But.
Right. That's so interesting because obviously come full circle, he ends his career in Tampa, and I think that's one thing that I've always been curious about because, Tom came down to Tampa. I went up to New England. I didn't play for New England. You guys won the Super Bowl that year, and I feel like I've heard so many guys that I played with talk about how he elevated the locker room, how he. Guys were, Tristan has told me this before. He's like, I'm going to play my best fucking football. I'm blocking for Tom Brady, stuff like that. And it's always curious to me because I'm wondering, does that ripple effect, go into other areas of the building as well? The front office, did he elevate, did bringing him into the building elevate the front office as well?
He absolutely did because it was like watching, it was kind of like watching Babe Ruth in his final years, the legend. And didn't know how long he was going to be there, so I didn't want to let him down. I wanted to put attempt to get put the best team around him as possible, and didn't want to let him down. And then there's been stories about what I had John Spytek and Rob McCartney meet with him on a weekly basis over our opponent, and that elevated they put a lot of time into this, so Tom knew everything about the opponent. And then, he elevated the social media game. He elevated, the business
science.
side, sports science, ticketing. He elevated everybody. So, and we're still feeling the ripple effects. We still talk about, it hasn't been that long. We tell the rookies that they always ask, most of them ask, what was Tom like? And then we kind of go into stories out that you wouldn't believe how hard he worked. Didn't just happen by accident.
He set the standard for everyone in the building, whether it was players to personnel staff and everything like that. Did that teach you stuff about like evaluating and developing quarterbacks too, or is he just kind of a one-off freak Hall of Famer?
A little bit. We would talk on a daily basis all the time about different quarterbacks and what it takes. Because I'd like to get inside his head as much as I could, and then we formed a really strong relationship. We talk to this day. We text all the time. Not all the time, but often. And so, I don't know. He's just a cool person to talk to, getting his side of things. He's kind of like, a lot of ways, like Belichick, and Bill I know you weren't there a long time, but Bill has just a way of simplifying it to the core, and you're like, well, shoot, you're almost upset that you're disappointed. You thought that there'd be some long, drawn-out reason why you do things. It's like, no, this is why, and you're like, oh, okay.
No, that was my biggest takeaway, and I was on IR when I was in New England, and it was COVID pandemic year. Everything shut down, so I was just like, I'm going to sit here and be a fly on the wall, absorb all this information. And what you said is so true. I would sit in those meetings, and he has this way of breaking down football and making it seem so simple and straightforward, but in ways that you don't have the experience or knowledge to do.
Right,
know?
you overlook, yeah.
Yeah, and it was such a great learning opportunity for me. And so that's actually another thing I would ask you is because you've been doing this for a long time with Don Shula, Jimmy Johnson, with Bill, with Andy Reid, with BA, all these great coaches, and Andy Reid and Bill are probably two of the best to ever do it. Are there kind of unifying universal traits that you've noticed watching these coaches? And is there like one or two things that all these guys do, or are each of them kind of they're independent guys who have their own process?
They're all a little different, but one thing I talked about this recently a couple times, interviews. One thing that they have in common, and I think it's a very strong trait for a coach, is that they don't have the sky is never falling. Like if you're on a losing streak, they stay the same. If you're out 4 starters for your big game against your division rival, it's not we're going to lose for sure. It's all right. Let's get these guys ready. That's what we got to coach them. We got to make some adjustments, and we got to do this. And this isn't going to stop us from doing what we're doing. And it's that they're all like this because I've seen the opposite, and then that mentality then is a ripple effect into the locker room because you guys as players can see that, can sense that when you can sense and smell it that there's fear,
Yeah,
so,
you get a little uneasy as a player when your coach is freaking out, But when you have that kind of confidence, when you're an elite coach, like what you're saying, like there's just this calm confidence that kind of permeates through the locker room as well.
Like BA was awesome. We would meet on Thursday afternoons. It was like our weekly. We'd go have beers, all right, and or drinks, whatever. He would drink Captain and Coke, and Captain Diet. He said that's what I drink when I'm not drinking. And so he would. I would say, it looks like Mike's going to be out this game. He's like, all right, babe, we'll be fine. Cool, babe. Like, well, the young guy's got to get ready. It's just it makes me feel good.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, as a player, you love that too. All right, Jason, I got some fun questions for you if you're willing to bear with me here. Got through some of the more interesting stuff. I think the one thing I want to ask you is, like I said, you've been doing this since fucking, 1995? Is there one player in the draft or free agency that you kind of is like you're the one that got away that you really wanted to get, whether it was draft, free agency, but just slipped away and you always think about it?
There's so many. It really happens a lot. So,
sure.
But then usually it's the players that we wanted that got away a lot of times, or that we were going to draft and somebody took in front of us. I'll be honest with you, it happens for a reason, and we got a text thread with the scouting department where it's the guy dodging bullets in slow motion.
Yeah, the Matrix.
The Matrix. We dodged one. So I can't think of one offhand that really, really got away that we wanted, but there's. It happens a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, when we drafted Chris Godwin, we had another receiver that we were going to take, and he went like almost right before us, and we're like, well, I guess I'll take Godwin.
Yeah.
The other guy
that one worked out for you, Jason.
The other guy lasted a year in the league. So, yeah.
So along those same kind of threads, like storied career, a lot of legendary players, Dan Marino, all the, Vince Wilfork, all the all-time great, Mike Vrabel, all the great Patriots, Brady, obviously Rob. Calais Campbell, I think, was a rookie in 2008 when you were in Arizona. He's playing now 20 years later, which is wild. Yeah. But is there one guy that you remember seeing for the first time play and just being like, holy shit?
Dan Marino. It was my first year in the league. God, his release was so fast. It was just amazing how fast he can throw that ball. And I was basically like an intern, and I would have to stand next to him at practice and hold his dip. And then we became
That's a prestigious role, Jason.
It was. And I had to write the play down on a whiteboard and hold it up. And that was basically my job during the season. But anyway, so I became he started calling me Jay, and then he'd start asking me to do some other things for him, and it kind of gained his trust. And I just had been asked to go to Thanksgiving by one of my bosses, Tom Bratz, who was our college director, this unbelievable man that passed away a few years ago, but he was awesome. One of my favorite people of all time. But he asked me to come to Thanksgiving, and I said, yeah, I'd love to go to your house for Thanksgiving. So then I go out to practice, and Marino goes, hey, we want you over at the house for Thanksgiving. And I was like, oh my God. He was my hero. Like, I go, I can't. I just said, oh my God. I was trying to think, how can I get out of this? So anyway, but I said, I can't. I'm going with Bratz. And then Bernie Kosar comes strolling up. He goes, hey, Jay, Babette and I want you to come to Thanksgiving at the house. Marino goes, if you say yes, I will cut your balls off. So,
It's a good, popular guy in the
I couldn't believe it.
Facility, man. Sheesh. No, I love hearing those old stories about like these players that obviously, weren't in my era, but are fucking legends for a reason. It's great to hear those. Okay, a couple more questions about Bucs players. Who's the most underrated Buck?
Levante David.
I had a feeling you were going to say that, so I was going to say, who's the most underrated Buck on the roster not named Levante David?
Well, I think we have quite a few. I don't think people realize how good Kalijah Kancey is.
Yeah.
As a disruptive three technique. This kid's really good.
Yeah.
So
I saw him saying that he's expecting to have double sacks sometime soon, and I hope so, dude. He's explosive, man. Like I was a D lineman. Obviously, I played D line for the Bucs, but I watched his tape. I'm like, God damn, I couldn't do that shit. Like he's good. He's a good player. I kind of have a feeling how this one's going to go, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. Chris Godwin, Levante David, Baker Mayfield. Fuck, marry, kill.
I'm going to pass on that.
Okay, yeah, a little awkward because it's all players on the roster. So let me rephrase that question with players that are no longer on the Bucs roster. Cam Brate, Ali Marpet, Beau Allen. Fuck, marry, kill.
I'm going to pass.
You're going to plead the fifth? All right.
Yeah, I'm going to plead the fifth. Yeah.
I kind of figured you might. This
right now I kind of feel like killing you. So
yeah, I get that a lot, Jason. This is a very serious podcast. Big media enterprise here.
Okay.
There was black smoke last week. A pope was selected.
What do you mean black smoke?
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
It'd be white smoke.
There was white smoke last week. I thought it was black smoke.
No, it's green
smoke. It's black smoke when it hasn't been, because the conclave met twice. Black smoke was first.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't selected. White smoke because Pope Leo the
14th.
Thank you. Is named the new pope for the Catholic Church. He is Robert Francis Prevost. Prevost?
Yeah. Well, you better figure out how to say
it. He's the 267th leader of the Roman Catholic Church. He's the first ever U.S.-born pope and the first pope from the Augustine order.
That's a lot of leaders.
Yeah. Well, you figure,
they're all old.
Long time.
It's been a long time.
Well, they only served
alum.
10, 20 years.
So he was just currently living in Chicago?
Nah.
No. Where's he at?
So
he's
been
a cardinal in the Vatican.
Yeah.
He's also been in South America.
Okay.
He grew up in Chicago.
Yep.
People in Chicago were super proud. Also went to Villanova. My parents went to school there. Yeah, Philly. So
Cats.
Yeah, it's a very relevant pope. There's a lot of places the first American pope could be from that everybody would be like, oh, cool.
First pope.
Chicago's not one of them.
First pope to watch Nate Collins play football.
You don't know that for sure.
He has to be.
Is he a big Bears fan?
He has to be a Bears fan if he's from Chicago. You have to be.
I don't know if he is. I think he seems like a bigger baseball. And no, he's not a Bulls fan. He's a Knicks fan. That's what it was. He's a Knicks fan. So he's Bears and
White Sox baseball.
White Sox.
So he might have seen Nate Collins throw out the first pitch too, if he's a White Sox fan.
He's definitely. He was on TV at a White Sox game. Did you see this?
Yeah, World Series.
Oh,
2005 or whenever that was. We were in college.
Definitely the first pope to have sex in a stairwell.
You think that happened for sure?
Yeah, an American teen.
Is that where everybody's fucking?
Who among us?
I've never had sex in a stairwell. In a stairwell?
Like a stairwell with stairs?
No, I understand what a stairwell is.
Missing out.
What about
You like stairwells
like a
too?
stairwell at your home?
You're a stairwell guy?
How about one of those? Stairwell at your home?
I've had sex so much. You know? I don't remember. I don't like take notes after every time. Stairwell?
Yeah, dude. Stairwell. Come on.
Really?
Stairwell.
Yes.
Huh.
We're 4 for 4 in this room.
The railing.
You're stairwell too?
You can use,
Stairwell.
You can
Yeah.
use the railing for different things. Leverage.
I understand, but like,
Dude.
I live in a ranch style home for the most part.
No, it doesn't have to necessarily. We're not saying necessarily at the house.
Leo the 14th had sex in a stairwell. You haven't had sex in a stairwell?
Oh, that makes me a fucking prude.
Ha. Look
But
at
he
this
has.
guy.
Has he had? Oh, what? Go ahead.
Look at him placing that bet.
Yeah, dude, he's calling in a bet on the Sox. You know, the fact that he is from Chicago, I thought when we were thinking about things that he's probably done that most popes haven't, I was thinking like got beat up real fucking bad. Just like got his ass kicked.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody's like, oh, I beat the fuck out of the Pope back in the day. There's also somebody that, to your point, was like, yeah, I sucked the Pope's dick. Which is just a wild thing to say. Somebody's walking around saying it.
When do they take a vow of celibacy at some point? Is this what
I
a pope
believe
does?
so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that
Yeah.
covers stairwells too. I don't know why you assume he's
Yeah,
just fucking
no,
in
as a
stairwell.
teen, he's not like
So
I take the vow at 15.
Yeah,
He's in a
that's what-
stairwell at 15.
no, I think if you're gonna be the Pope, you know it at like 40.
Wait, how long? Wait. So
like you don't
if-
even jack off.
So
We're
what-
about to get into some really bad pope questions,
If you-
but
yeah.
there's
if you-
no such thing as a bad pope question.
if
because
you're in the
nobody knows.
running to be the Pope in your mind, you don't even look at nudie magazines.
when they are ordained. So
So-
how
Well, this
long
is
is
for
the gap
Cardinals, so
from
as-
being ordained to being a pope? How big is that gap? Like 30 years?
Let's find out.
Yeah, he's like 70 now.
Yeah.
No, so he got ordained when he was 40.
He was ordained in 1982.
So when you celibacy, that means
When
no
you
sex,
celibacy.
no more kids. So like once you decide to do this shit, like you
27.
can't have kids anymore, right?
Right.
No.
Have any popes have kids?
No,
Oh,
because that would
really?
mean they had sex.
You don't take that vow of celibacy until
That's what I'm saying. So after,
Yes,
what if
the
you,
number of popes have
Wow.
throughout
Bang!
history,
Dang,
Yes!
see that?
both legitimately and illegitimately.
That's what I'm talking about,
yo.
popes.
There's definitely illegitimate pope
Nate,
kids
you could
out
still
there.
be a Pope.
For sure. There's definitely
For sure.
what? There's definitely a bunch of little Pope Jon Snows out there running around.
Yeah.
Little what?
Jon Snow popes,
What's
You-
a Jon Snow
born
Pope?
out of wedlock,
Oh, okay.
but like Pope lock actually after
Pope lock.
illegitimate,
Pope lock.
like illegitimate meaning they had a baby after they
Yeah.
they vowed the celibacy
Or
and
out of
kept it
their
quiet.
yeah.
That's tough because you know the monks, they're just like they don't even know how it feels.
Mm.
The popes, they know how it feels.
Yep. That's
and
what
they're,
we're thinking.
and they're
of, monk.
shunning it, right?
Yeah.
Which is tough because you've been inside. You know,
If
Yeah.
you
You could
want
have you
to
could have bad experiences though, so it could have been like
how
that.
bad do you think the pussy was to drive you to be the Pope?
Yeah. Man, you know, I don't know.
if you want to learn
Be
more
like,
on
yeah,
this
I'm
topic,
good.
if you
I'm
want
good. I'm good on that. I'm good on that. I think I'm gonna go to South America where I can't have sex. I'm going to South America. I can't have sex there.
This is a list of sexually active popes.
on Wikipedia.
No way. This is the best Wikipedia entry ever.
Popes getting it popping. St.
All right,
Peter.
Let's
So
read about this.
the popes who are legally married. Saint Peter,
Okay.
who reigned from 30 AD to 68 AD, 30 AD to 64 AD.
Rain comes.
Dang.
You know what I'm saying?
They killed Felix III's
I
wife.
did.
Offspring.
They killed his wife.
Yeah, look, widowed right before his election as pope. They got her out of there.
You think they killed her? They just said she was widowed. Could have been anything. Could have been syphilis from.
Nah, they had to keep it going. You got to be celibate, no wives.
You guys really can't judge these guys. You guys have been fucking in stairwells. Stairwell fucking.
All these guys, the like Middle Ages, 1500s.
Yeah, let's go to some more recent.
Yeah, I'm
scroll
trying to-
all the way down.
Okay, Pope Leo the 7th, the 12th,
Not my Leo.
You got it.
1823 to
Oh, he
1829.
wasn't married. Allegedly 3 children.
Oh, wow. Having a liaison with the wife of a Swiss Guard soldier?
Damn. If
That
you're
Pope
the soldier,
definitely got his ass kicked.
bro, if
That
you're the
Pope definitely got
soldier,
his
can
ass
you be like, damn, I got to fight? Ah, it's the fucking Pope.
No, he's not the
You
Pope
can't-
yet.
You can't.
Oh,
Is he the
yeah.
Pope yet?
Hey, Cowboy, in this entry, can you do Control F and then type in the word stairwell?
See if
Bro.
yeah.
They could do a what you call.
That's a cool feature. I
They
haven't
could
seen
make a
before.
damn like
Yeah.
they could make a Game of Thrones type series out of all this stuff.
Conclave.
No results returned.
Damn. All right.
Yeah, no. Like,
Can you give me to like a 1900s?
That's what I'm.
whoa, I just saw the word homosexuality, which I'm fine with. But maybe they aren't in the Vatican. Somebody was posthumously accused of homosexuality.
Uh-oh. Look at
Dang.
Paul the
Leo the
there.
10th.
Damn, they waited till he died. Start talking.
Leo X.
Yo,
or
are
like
you
Leo triple X.
Ha, ha.
Do you feel me?
Hey, does anybody want to read Paul II's entry up there?
Okay. Thought to have died of indigestion arising from eating melon. Though his opponents alleged he died while being sodomized by a page.
What's a page?
Like
person?
like an
Is that-
assistant.
Yeah.
A what?
Like an assistant.
Wait. So he got fucked to death
By an assistant.
by an assistant.
By his assistant.
Yeah.
And where the hell does the
Did they have an HR?
bro? So they found him fucked to death, and to clean it up, they're gonna say
He had
they're
bad
gonna
melon.
say
Bad
he
melon.
had
Vatican PD.
he had indigestion from a melon.
There's a
What?
oh, what to tell you? There's a we got a cardinal down.
Pope Paul II is dead.
Fucked to death. 1021, 1069, 69, 69.
Go grab that melon.
Can't
Sprinkle some melon on him.
not gonna be canonizing this one. Pink smoke.
That's crazy.
There's a page running away from the scene with an erection. So there's a page running away from the scene with an erection.
You know what sucks about this too?
5'8" white male, huge cock.
Yeah. So wait. What?
Just
what?
call the Pope.
What job does the page have?
Huh?
What job does the page regularly have?
He was an assassin. Was more like it.
Yeah, I know, but like, what are they like? Are they like?
It's an
Are they?
inside job, if you know what I mean.
Was it like? Was this like a revenge thing? Like, I'm sick of this. Like, was he like a? Is he like a servant? Is a page like a servant? Was he like, I'm sick of this?
I'm sick of this. I'm gonna fuck you to
I'm gonna
death.
Fuck you to death right now.
Yo, he's in the 7th circle of hell. He
Crazy.
killed a pope.
A pope. That's crazy,
Bro,
but that's nuts. Like, we're like
nuts.
The
Do you think
The
he called it? You
spectrum?
think he called it the Pope Killer?
the
You think-
spectrum.
You think he like?
Oh my god.
You think he? He's like, yeah, mate. Call it the Pope Killer, mate.
Oh, he's Australian.
A 5'8" Australian.
Yeah, 'cause that's where all the criminals were. Australia used to be a big prison. They definitely sent him down to Australia.
Yeah.
Hey, when he walked in, they was like clanking. They were like, "That's the guy that killed the Pope."
Can melons give you indigestion?
Who's punking up with the page? What are you in for? Killing the Pope, mate.
I wonder if melons can even give you indigestion. Honestly,
Melons?
yeah. Like, where's the ladder for that? Like, fuck to death or indigestion from melon?
Oh,
How many people? How many people you think die from, like? Do you
Sex?
think more people get killed from like getting fucked to death or like,
melons?
or like indigestion?
Well, GERD is really serious. Ultimately,
is GERD like?
yeah.
Is that indigestion like
I
that?
think
Real bad heartburn, right?
Yeah. Eventually, it can erode the lining of your esophagus and cause all types of problems.
But like eventually, that's not like sudden. Like this had to be like sudden, right?
I would venture to say a lot more old people are dying while fucking than like in present day.
Yeah, you can blame that on the ticker though.
The incident of death during sexual activity is extremely rare. 10 to 20 deaths per year.
Oh, that's way low.
That's low.
Maybe in stairwells.
Yeah, no, honestly. You getting your steps in. Hey, I've got a fear of that. You know?
Yeah. Try creatine.
Yeah, creatine helps. I kind of like just reading Wikipedia.
Dude, on this is death during
I think the show
consensual
just
sex. Death during consensual sex Wikipedia page. Pope John the 12th. Our guy.
No way.
Well, one story relates that he died of a paralytic stroke suffered while having sex with a woman named Stefanetta.
Oh.
He may have died instead.
That's the problem.
He may have died instead when the woman's husband defenestrated him.
Can we look that up?
Edda.
It's the act of throwing someone or something out of a window.
That's badass.
Or beat him to death with a hammer during the act.
You want to get defenestrated, bitch?
Defenestrated.
President of France is widely reported to have died while receiving fellatio from his mistress.
Which one's
the
that?
cause of death was listed as a cerebral hemorrhage. Damn, she gave that ill sloppy copy.
Eyewitnesses stated he was in the state of partial undress.
Yo,
wow.
She gave the bomb. She gave the killer head. She gave him some killer head.
What if both happened? Like the reason he couldn't get away is because he had a stroke.
Some claimed.
And
sorry.
A similar. That's just busting a fat nut, right? Like, if you hemorrhage in your head, yeah, hell yeah, that's crazy.
Yo, Nelson Rockefeller died in 1979 of a heart attack at age 70, rumored to be caused by an orgasm during intercourse.
With his secretary, Megan Marshak.
The New York Magazine quipped, Nelson thought he was coming, but he was going.
Make. That's good. Oh, that's good.
I would have gotten there.
That's good.
You know what else is good?
Lord Palmerston, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, died following him.
You know what else is good, Chris?
Go ahead.
These creatine gummies.
Yeah, they are. Keep eating them. How many have you had over there?
Just a daily dose of 3.
Okay.
The recommended number.
Why do I feel like you're gonna eat the whole bag?
No, I've had it for a while.
You're gonna get jacked. What are the things that an American Pope has done? Man, I did not know that they were allowed to have sex. So really opens the door for a lot.
Well, you got to think about it. Like, when are you making that call if you're not? Like,
so he's gotten shit faced at like a bar.
Yes,
for sure. Right?
Yeah.
Probably gambled. He might have gambled on Double Doink.
No, that was too recent.
He definitely watched Double Doink.
He's.
You think you think he ever had a Frank Thomas jersey?
He would have seen.
I think he watches the Nugenix commercials and he's like, "That's fucking funny."
He would.
You know what I wonder about?
What?
If the popes, if they do have sex, or if they were known for having sex, what are their groupies like?
Pope groupies?
Yeah. Like they're probably like. I know you hate this, but
like they're sliding in the DMs and dressing him as His Holiness.
Mm-hmm.
He was 15 in the year 1970, making him 20 in 75. He's probably done the marijuana.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dream's not dead.
First, you think collected sports cards? You think all the other popes in different countries are collecting sports cards?
Maybe.
That's a good question.
Maybe.
If he's a baseball fan, he definitely had baseball cards.
Yeah. I have a strong suspicion he's been beaten up bad, like in high school. You know? I just love picturing somebody walking around being like, I kicked the Pope's ass.
But,
you know what I mean?
Or someone walking around like, what if he was the bully?
Pope kicked my ass.
What about that? that guy kicked my ass before.
Pope fucked me up, dude. Pope fucked me up. He was laying pipe to my girlfriend, and he turned around and beat my ass. That's how popes do.
I'll be fucking his girlfriend.
I'll be
stairwell.
in a stairwell. He threw me down the stairs. The Pope, what's the word?
Defenestration.
Defenestrated me down the stairs. Fuck, that's funny. I'll never think about the popes the same. Here I was, I thought they were these perfect people.
No.
Nobody is, not even the popes. Tim Tebow, more perfect than the popes. Tim Tebow would make a good pope. Pope Tebow?
Stay away from the melon.
Take care.